The beginning of the 1870s was an expansive and prosperous time for shipping, and steamships were the future. However, when Swedish ship owners wanted to invest their freight earnings in steamships, they found that existing hull underwriters were unwilling to undertake such new and dangerous risks. So the Swedish steamship owners decided to take the question of hull insurance into their own hands. On January the 22nd, 1872, they published an invitation in leading newspapers for Swedish ship owners to form a mutual organisation, providing hull insurance for steamships.
And this is where it begins. Behind me, Wilhelm Fleetwood is signing the documents that will be the official start of Sveriges Ångfartygs Assuransförening, nowadays known as the Swedish Club.
The first board of directors was headed by Mr. Wilhelm Fleetwood, a master mariner, who was both chairman and managing director.
Here at Västra Hamngatan 6, 2 office rooms are rented in 1873, marking the beginning of the Swedish Club's endeavours into shipping insurance.
The first vessel to be insured was the steamship Orvar Odd, which belonged to Ångfartygs AB Västkusten in Gothenburg. As the international industry expanded, influencing the national maritime sector, the club continued to grow steadily. By 1912, the club now had 235 ships. On July the 28th, 1914, World War I began and presented the club with new challenges. War insurance was introduced to support the members. Mr. Einar Lange, the managing director at the time, served the club during a transition period in Swedish shipping and lived through 2 world wars. On July 25, 1956, the Swedish-American line passenger vessel Stockholm collides with the ship Andrea Doria off the coast of New York. 43 persons on board the Andrea Doria and 5 on board the Stockholm perish. The Andrea Doria sank after about 10 hours, while the Stockholm could return to New York after having saved more than 500 of the Andrea Doria's passengers and crew members.
You can imagine the reaction at hearing the tragic news of the collision between vessels Stockholm and Andrea Doria. This was to be perhaps the biggest case ever for the Swedish club, and the exceptional handling of the claims and everything involved in the case would earn the club an entirely new reputation within the shipping world.
Some 10 years later, on June 5, 1967, the Swedish ships Nippon and Kilara were part of a convoy passing through the Suez Canal to the Mediterranean. The so-called Six-Day War broke out between Israel on one side and Egypt, Jordan and Syria on the other. After 6 days, Israel won a decisive military victory. As a result of the political aftermath, Nippon, Kilara and the other 12 ships in the convoy were trapped in the Great Bitter Lake and would remain there for 8 years. Again, the Swedish club handled the claims in a way that earned respect internationally. These 2 cases combined paved the way for the club to go global and open its doors to international members. During the 60s and 70s, Mr. Per-Erik Hedborg was managing director and worked vigorously to broaden the membership of the club. During his time, the club also became pioneers of loss prevention initiatives with the aim to enhance safety at sea. When Mr. Lars Lindfeldt takes over as managing director in the 80s, he realizes that the future of the Swedish club lies beyond the borders of Sweden. He succeeds by means of his personality in selling the Swedish club as a most attractive insurance alternative for the international shipping industry. It is also during these years that the club opens offices in the leading shipping sectors Piraeus and Hong Kong. In the beginning of the millennium, Mr. Frans Malmros, who was the managing director at the time, continued to develop the club by taking relationship marketing to a whole new level. The club's loss prevention initiatives are the core to the launch of Maritime Resource Management in 1990. The MRM training is now spread over 35 countries worldwide, with over 100 licensed training providers. MRM is a course designed to minimize the risk of incidents by encouraging safe and responsible behavior at sea. During the 2000s, the club strengthens its position on the international shipping scene by opening offices in Oslo and London. As Mr. Lars Rodin, the club's current managing director, says, "It's all about trust. There is no finish line in the endeavour to continue to do things better and to serve our members at all times."
This is the Swedish club today. Here, club experts strive constantly to support their members and business partners all over the world and to provide the very best marine insurance solutions adapted to each specific need.